Mix 102.5, the best mix from the 90s to now. It's Big Papa in the afternoon. Talking to Briana from the Estate Planning Law Center on French Road in New Hartford, 793-3622, eplawcenter.com. Briana, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Now, here, we've known each other for a really long time. And the way I got to know you was, well, besides Cavallos, but the way I got to know you was through your mom's banquet facility over in Washington Mills. And that's how I knew you. So the fact that now you're at the Estate Planning Law Center, you've been there for a while. Why did you end up getting into estate planning with the Estate Planning Law Center?
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. I went to school to be a teacher, realized that wasn't really where I kind of wanted to be. So I started working as a client service coordinator here at the Estate Planning Law Center and worked my way up. I now run the operations of the firm. I make sure that the attorneys are getting their work completed, making sure that the rest of the team is giving, top quality customer service so that we can help people plan their legacies and make sure that they have estate plans in place so that should something happen to them, their families aren't left wondering, well, what do we do now?
Well, yeah, and the fact is, you have a story that's really similar to that, and I mean that you have a personal kind of investment on don't let this happen to you kind of a deal, right?
Yes. So my grandparents, I come from a big Italian family, so we're together all the time.
No, Italian families together? No.
Yes, all the time. So we would get together for Sunday dinner, and I had a really close relationship with my grandparents. My papi actually was diagnosed with mesothelioma, which is asbestos cancer, and when he passed away, he didn't have any estate planning. He didn't even have a will, and it kind of shook my family to the core because they were left trying to figure out, well, what happens next? And because of the types of cancer he had and whatnot, there were a lot of attorneys involved, and ultimately it led to a lot of disagreements and whatnot between the family. So there was a few years there where, it wasn't all happy sunshine and rainbows. It was, arguments of who's talking to the lawyer, how come the lawyers are talking to them, and, why are you going through dad's stuff when we should be doing it together? So there was about 2 years where nobody was really talking to each other. And once they were able to get all of that kind of figured out and settled, I started working at the Estate Planning Law Center, and I said, well, starting to realize that I'm the one of the grandkids that is sticking around. So how can we avoid this? And, I had the Estate Planning Law Center that really helped Nani create a plan. And unfortunately, Nani passed away November 29th of 2020.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. She was with us for 20 years between the time Papi passed and the time she passed away. And, we did everything with her. We took her on vacations, and she saw all of us graduate. She saw some of us get married, the real milestones. And, the best part of this story was that not only myself but my team here at the Estate Planning Law Center was actually able to create a plan for her so that when she did pass away, her 4 children could come in, meet with the attorneys, and settle everything without any arguments. They were able to grieve the loss of her, and it was just a totally different story. So for me, estate planning is important. I don't care how old anybody is. At the minimum, you need a will, healthcare proxy, power of attorney, and then as you get older, to see what other options are out there.
It really, and you don't really appreciate estate planning until you need it. You know what I'm saying? It's like a seatbelt. You don't really appreciate it till you need it, and your story rings so true because if earlier on, if your grandfather, your papi, was able to have, all those, things put into place, it would have saved the family. Once Papi passed away, it would have saved them years of arguments and disagreements and, going weeks not talking, because I know Italian people, listen, my mom's maiden name's Spatola. All right. I'm fully aware of how grudges hold in Italian families. All right. So I know that there were some relatives that didn't talk to each other for a couple weeks, probably a couple months, so that could have all been avoided just by, having a couple meetings and getting things in place,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we see it all the time. I mean, that was my personal story with estate planning, but, the clients that come in that have gone through the hardship of not knowing if mom and dad had a will, a lot of our clients, their children have moved away. So when they pass away, the kids are back, they're trying to put the funeral together. They're trying to, deal with the loss of their parents. And then on top of it, what are the next steps? Because I tell everybody, when we host our workshops, I tell everybody, the game's over for you because you've passed away. Somebody else has to pick the ball up and run it the rest of the way down the field. So either you're going to give them the playbook because you've created one for them, or they're going to have to try and figure out what the next play is. And so for me, I always tell everyone, listen, let people know what you want to have happen. That way it makes it easier on them, and they're not left wondering, well, how do we move the ball down the field if mom or dad, aunt, uncle, whoever it is, didn't tell us what they wanted us to do with it.
And that's where the first step is going to a workshop with the Estate Planning Law Center on French Road, New Hartford. All the details, eplawcenter.com. Also, add them on social media. There's lots of information there as well. And you can call 793-3622. We were talking about, your personal experience with estate planning and things that happened, that did because there was no estate planning that went down with your grandfather and how that was avoided with your grandmother, which is an amazing story. My question is, when is a good time to start to have the conversations? Like, is in your 20s too early?
Never. It's never too early to plan. That is my word of advice to everybody. It is never too early to plan. As long as you're over the age of 21, everyone at the minimum should have a healthcare proxy and a power of attorney, because at 21, we're off on our own. We could be in college, starting out in the world, and the most important is the healthcare proxy and the power of attorney, so that if something were to happen to you, if you were to get into an accident or forget who you are, have a stroke or things like that, you have somebody that's appointed to make your decisions, so that you've declared, okay, I would like, my sister, my brother, my husband, my wife, somebody to make my decisions, because that way it's just easier all the way around. And you don't actually have to use those documents until you yourself are unable to make your decisions.
Sure. Now, we're talking about the first step is going to a workshop with the Estate Planning Law Center. Talk to me about what the workshop is, what that experience is.
So I like to think that the workshop is really the first step in our ability to educate the marketplace on what estate planning is. So many people have told me in the past, well, I don't make enough money, I don't have an estate. Well, estate planning has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has
you don't need to be richy rich to do estate planning.
Exactly, you don't. And the best part of the workshop is you get to learn that. So you learn all of the rules that if you don't create an estate plan, what, the federal government and the state governments say that you're allowed to do versus what you're not allowed to do. And then we take it through how you can use an estate plan to help prepare for long-term care costs. So if you go into a nursing home, assisted living, need to bring someone into the home to care for an aging loved one, how do you protect their assets so that they're not lost to long-term care? And then finally, is a trust the best plan to protect our assets? So maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but the workshop teaches you all about what estate planning is, and then from there, the next step is, okay, what do I need to do personally to make sure that I can carry on my legacy?
Now, the cool thing about going to one of these workshops at the Estate Planning Law Center is it's not a gimmick to be like, okay, we're going to hard sell you right now to do something. This literally is, and this is why I love it, because it's literally, here's all the information. Take it as you see fit, and do with it as you may. If you want to use us to help you set yourself up, then awesome. But if not, at least you have that information, because so many people, like you said, don't have that information and end up having it cost them time, money, personal, just like personal being, and like stress and all that other stuff. And all it takes was just sitting through a workshop, and you could have avoided all of it.
Exactly. And that really is, they're complimentary workshops. We offer them 2-3 times a month, and they're all, you can log right into our website and find out when it is. And then we also offer a way that your children, so we have a lot of, parents that come in and say, well, how do I make sure that my kids are taken care of if I pass away? Well, make sure that your kids are involved in the conversation to the point where they actually know that you're putting an estate plan together. And again, these are all topics that we cover in the workshop.
And again, for all of those details, you can go to eplawcenter.com, eplawcenter.com. Add them on social media as well. It's Briana from the Estate Planning Law Center on French Road in New Hartford, 793-3622. Always a pleasure, and can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, thanks so much.